There's a glass of orange juice on your breakfast table. Cold, bright, sweet. The most normal thing in the world. Here's what nobody told you. That glass is not a tradition. It's an invention. It has a birthday, a patent number, and a marketing budget. Drinking orange juice every morning was designed, engineered in a lab, sold to you like a car. And the empire it built, 242 million boxes of oranges a year, an entire state's identity, the fruit on the license plate, is almost gone. 95% of it. Vanished in 20 years. This is the story of the postcard America drank. Who built it, who killed it, and what's being built on the grave. It starts, like a lot of Florida stories, with a war. In the early 1940s, the U.S. government had a problem. Soldiers overseas needed vitamin C, and the lemon crystals in their rations tasted so bad the troops wouldn't eat them. So the government, working with the Florida Department of Citrus, funded scientists to crack a different problem. How do you ship an orange to a battlefield? The obvious answer, evaporating juice into concentrate, produced something that tasted like punishment. Then researchers found the trick: add a splash of fresh juice back into the concentrate at the end. Suddenly it tasted real. That little maneuver, the cutback, was patented in 1948. 3 men, 1 patent, and the fate of an entire state. Because here's the thing, the war ended before the product shipped. In 1945, the Army had ordered 500,000 pounds of powdered orange juice from a small Florida company. Peace broke out. The company was stuck holding a military invention with no military. So they did the most Florida thing imaginable. They sold it to you instead. They renamed the product with the help of a Boston marketing firm, something that sounded fast, easy, modern. Minute Maid. They hired Bing Crosby, one of the most famous voices in America, to sing about frozen orange juice on the radio, morning after morning, in exchange for cash and 20,000 shares of stock. The croon that sold a habit. And it worked beyond anyone's dreams. The company lost money for 2 years, then sales exploded 300% in a single year. A few $100,000 in first-year sales became roughly $110 million by 1955. For the first time in history, orange juice was available everywhere in America, every day of the year. Stop and think about what actually happened there. Before concentrate, fresh orange juice was a luxury. Expensive, seasonal, regional. The daily glass at breakfast, the one that feels as old as breakfast itself. Manufactured. A war ration, rebranded by an ad campaign, frozen into a little can that your grandmother thawed in the refrigerator overnight. The postcard wasn't a beach this time. It was a 6-ounce can, and it turned Florida into an empire. Grove swallowed the middle of the state. Coca-Cola bought Minute Maid in 1960. The juice was now Big Soda's morning shift. A rival named Tropicana bet on fresh juice instead of frozen and got a baseball stadium named after it. The orange went on the license plate. The welcome centers poured free cups of sunshine at the state line. By the early 2000s, Florida was producing 242 million 90-pound boxes of oranges a year, almost all of it becoming juice. The glass on your table was Florida, the state's entire identity, exported at breakfast. At the peak, it looked permanent. It had about 20 years to live. The killer arrived quietly, around 2005, a bacterium, spread by an insect smaller than a grain of rice. Citrus greening. It doesn't kill a tree quickly. It ruins it slowly. The fruit stays green and bitter, drops early, and the tree spends years dying while the grower spends money trying to save it. There is no cure. Once it's in a grove, the grove is on a clock. And then Florida piled on. Not one blow, but a combination. Each one landing before the industry could get up from the last. Hurricane Ian tore through the groves in 2022. Milton hit in 2024, storms that didn't just knock fruit down, but uprooted whole groves and drowned root systems. A single February freeze in 2026 did $700 million of damage. And underneath it all, the quietest blow, orange juice consumption itself fell by more than half since 2000. Sugar fears, breakfast trends, changing tastes. Even the demand was dying. 20 years of that, and the numbers stopped looking like agriculture and started looking like an obituary. 242 million boxes, down to 12 million. A 95% collapse. The smallest crop since 1930, Great Depression numbers, in the state that still stamps 2 bright oranges on every license plate. But here's where this stops being a story about a disease. Because the disease isn't what ends Florida industries. The land is. At the end of the 2025 harvest, one of Florida's biggest citrus companies, Alico, announced it was gutting 53,000 acres of groves, 35% of the state's entire citrus production, condemned in a press release. One of its historic groves is now, in the words of one reporter, Florida's largest citrus graveyard. And what happens to a dead grove in Florida? The same thing that happens to everything in Florida. Nearly 2/3 of the state's citrus acreage is already gone, and much of it went the only direction Florida land ever goes, to developers. The math is brutal and simple. A diseased grove loses money every season. A subdivision never gets greening. The empire isn't just dying, it's being subdivided. The postcard is becoming cul-de-sacs. An industry that once defined the state now generates about $7 billion and 30,000 jobs, less than half the employment of 20 years ago. And the growers who remain say the scariest loss isn't the trees, it's the knowledge. The people who know how to grow an orange in Florida are retiring and dying, and there's no industry left to train their replacements. You can replant a grove. You can't replant a grandfather. So that's the ending. Except this year, 2 strange things happened. And they happened at the same time. First, the number went up. The final forecast for this season came in at nearly 13 million boxes, the first meaningful increase after 2 decades of freefall. New disease-tolerant trees are going in the ground. Researchers are gene-editing rootstock. For the first time in 20 years, the people left in the groves are using a word they'd almost forgotten: optimism. And second, in the very same year, Minute Maid discontinued the frozen concentrate can. After 80 years, the slushy little tube that started everything, the war ration that taught America to drink Florida every morning, quietly disappeared from the freezer aisle. Social media held a small funeral. Sit with that symmetry. The year the orange finally showed a pulse is the year they buried the can that made it famous. So is 13 million boxes a comeback or a dead cat bounce? Is this the beginning of the rebuild or one good season on the way down? Honestly, nobody knows. Not the USDA, not the growers, not the scientists. You're watching the coin land in real time. Tell me in the comments which way you think it falls. But either way, notice what never changed. The license plate still has 2 oranges on it. The welcome centers still pour the juice. The stadium still says Tropicana. The postcard is still for sale, long after the thing it advertised stopped being true. Because that's Florida. The glass on your breakfast table was never just juice. It was the most successful advertisement in American food history. Invented for a war, sold by a crooner, frozen into a can, and printed on a license plate that's still smiling while the groves become subdivisions. The postcard is never the place. The postcard is the product.